Jorge Pérez-Gómez. I'm the orchestra director here at the University of New Mexico, and I was responsible for preparing the orchestra for this performance. We had a guest conductor that came from Italy. I worked closely with him, so when he arrived, the ideas and the issues or be addressed. In general, I work with our principal string players to set the markings for our string section, and I also work with the wind section of the orchestra for phrases, expression, etc. So anyway, every aspect that involves the orchestra I was involved with. So
I'm Regina Carlow, and I'm a choral music ed professor at UNM, and I have a really fine opportunity to get to work with the UNM University course this semester.
I've had the luck of having conducted this symphony 4 times now. I mean, since a while back, since I first came to the University of New Mexico.
I've prepared the 9th Symphony 3 times. This is my 3rd time, and I learn more and more about it each time I prepare it.
The way I prepare is that I go back to the score that I always used and then review ideas that I had at one point, and then always the interesting thing about music is that always you find something new that you want to incorporate, something that you say, well, this will work better in comparison to what I did before. So it's like a rediscovery all the time. So music, this is why it has such an infinite and endless sense to it, because you're always in movement, always in flux, because it's never something that you just establish and it's set in stone.
I think what I normally do when I study major work is I listen to numerous recordings and different recordings. When it's a smaller work, I usually watch YouTube videos to get a lot of different feels for it. But with a major work, I try to find one definitive recording, and in my preparation, I listened to the UNM University Chorus's last performance of Beethoven's 9th Symphony.
So for me, going back to the score, singing through it, because like I tell my conducting students, it's absolutely crucial that as a conductor, we conduct from the inside. It's not something we do just by a reaction from an outside sound stimulus, but we have to be so convinced about what the music is, tempo, the slowdowns, the accelerandos, the dynamics, that I basically go to the beginning and do a whole revision of the score in detail.
I spoke to the orchestra conductor, Jorge Pérez-Gómez, and I worked on this a little bit with Rod Eichenberger, who was in residence this semester, and then I just did the old-fashioned thing. I did old-fashioned score study, and one of the things that I do is I go through every line, and I sing it, and I play it, and sometimes I dance it, and I internalize it, and I practice it in front of a mirror.
We have such a limited amount of time that if you don't plan it this way, you always can spend too much time on something that doesn't need it. So for me, actually making decisions of what needs to be rehearsed, it's a big part of it. I mean, in addition to knowing the score.
I think the most difficult part about this piece is the tessitura in all the voices. It's way, way, way high. And there are sustained pitches for the sopranos, high A's for about 32 to 64. I don't even know. I don't even count. So it's very hard, loud, high singing for all voice parts. I very greatly admire the work that this chorus has done to internalize this piece of music, because it's hard.
You know, Beethoven, when he wrote this symphony, he was already it's a very mature work. From the technical point of view, it's very challenging for the different instruments in the orchestra, the different sections, and also the complexity of the ensemble, the way sections interact. It's a very, very difficult thing to put together. So
it's a hard piece of music to sing. I mean, it really is, and it takes just a phenomenal choir to do it, and we luckily have that here at UNM, and we can do that.
A special problem in this case is that we have 4 singers, soloists, and the chorus. So the awareness that the orchestra needs to develop to play this work is not only playing among themselves, but also playing for an entity that comes from the outside and is going to be there. So,
well, anytime you're preparing a masterwork like this, there's a lot involved. You have to start the chorus at the beginning of the semester, much earlier than you would an orchestra. The singers need more time to learn their part. the language, the nuances of the piece. So you're working hard from the very beginning and making sure that you practice how you're going to perform from the onset of that first rehearsal. It takes a lot of work.
I can say that in many regards it's one of the most complex works to work on. I mean, and actually for a university student, it's a great experience and a great educational tool to be able to get to know a work like this. I think it's just a great work that every once in a while needs to be scheduled so the students get to know it as part of their education.
I have collaborated with the UNM Orchestra on many occasions, and I think mainly I am filled with real pride because our orchestra is really a good college orchestra. And that's so awesome to see these young people playing at such a high level.
With the chorus, we're dealing with text that we don't have in the regular orchestral work. A good number of the decisions I have to make have to agree with where the chorus is singing certain consonant or certain vowel, or if it's the part too high, then I need to be able to make sure that we don't take a slower tempo because it's harder to sing high. So the collaboration with the chorus is great for me, but like I was saying, it's also great for the orchestra because then they realize that if certain things don't take place, it will make it very hard for the chorus to accomplish a good performance.
There's also 4 or 5 of our former music ed students who are grad students and they're supporting the orchestra. So it's a wonderful feeling to work with these fine instrumentalists. It's great for the singers.
The fact that I have Regina, Carlow, and I was able to get the ideas from her graduate students, and we were all putting tempos together and how will work for the chorus, what they were used to, etc., made it easier for me to actually make some decisions for the orchestra. So it's always an interesting process when you have another ensemble that is not an instrumental ensemble being added to the performance.
Well, you know, it's a wonderful thing. I've actually never performed it before, so there's a pleasure doing it for the first time. It's a lot of work to put it all together, but once you realize the various different themes that there are throughout the piece, it's really learning the themes and putting them all together.
The more I learn about Beethoven and who he was, and the program notes written by one of our grad students really tells a really beautiful story of who Beethoven was and what kind of man he was. This work makes a whole lot of sense when I put it in context of Beethoven's life, where he was, you know, as a man, where he was as a musician, as a scholar. So for me, a major work gives us all time to really deeply absorb the composer in a way that it's not as easy to do in a 3 or a 7 minute piece of music.
I try to keep as a priority to have a mix of styles, a mix of compositions that are new, compositions that are traditional, and also masterworks. It's crucial for our students to get to know a symphony like the 9th Symphony by Beethoven. The educational value is that then it just enriches the life of the student in terms of putting in perspective everything they do and perhaps inspiring them to understand the amount of work it will take to make it as a professional musician, because if they don't have this experience, they will never realize the effort that it takes.
After you hear this, you want to go read everything you can about him because he's just such an interesting guy. I watched the chorus get up there and they were all a little shy and a little bit hesitant, and you know, there are some singers, it's a very intergenerational chorus. There are singers aged 17 to probably upwards of 70, and each of them stepped up to those risers with a different anxiety, a different feeling. Maybe some were proud, some were like nonchalant, but it was so lovely to hear them sing those first 2 notes. It was such a reward for me. So I just think the largeness of performing a masterwork with orchestra, soloists, and a guest conductor is unlike anything that you ever get to do.
You know, this is a work that Beethoven didn't write for a student orchestra. So by giving it to our students, we're trying to bring them to the level of a professional orchestra, having them really understand the depth, the technical difficulties, etc., that we already talked about. And this is why it's so important to program it.